And it just strengthened and recalled, it's not my money, it's God's. And when you're faithful with that, he's faithful to you. And, a lot of people they don't like money being spoken about in church. And I think it's very real because churches just want your money. No, God wants your heart. And one of our biggest stumbling blocks is our heart over money because we work for it. We own it. We get to spend it. And it's really hard to let that go. And, over the course of several broke years, I learned that lesson all the way up to today when I really start to stress about looking at the pipeline for people I work with. And maybe it's not as full as we'd like, or man, we got to get stuff going so these people can provide for their families. I just go back to God's provision for me, and money's not a problem. You can always go get another job. There's money everywhere. You just got to be willing to do it. It's not always fun to get, but you can go get money. Money's not the problem. But if you're faithful with it, it's going to be taken care of. And it's a constant affirmation for me as a business owner.
That's so good. I want to share a story too on that because stewardship, Tara and I, God has continued to break us down as we think we've given things to him. And then he's like, no, you didn't quite give this to me and you didn't give that to me. And we built a house. So we moved to Colorado Springs about 5 years ago and couldn't find a home. So we just said, all right, we're going to build this on this lot. And I felt really not like a calling from God, but just like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome back to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, where we talk about how to buy, sell, and grow your business. I have a really fun guest on today, Tanner Johnson. So Tanner is a seventh-generation Coloradoan who has scaled a roofing company, and they do things very different. They really prioritize local as opposed to a lot of the companies that chase hailstorms, really quality craftsmanship, and their team really just brings the joy when they come see you and want to really problem solve for you. I think his team is one of the best in the business, and they lead with empathy and caring as opposed to sales. So Tanner, man, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to dig in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So let's touch a bit on your background. Why roofing? Why'd you stay in Colorado? Why are you in this space? Tell us a little bit about your family and what got you excited to start this business and grow it.
Yeah, so my family homesteaded just east of Colorado Springs in 1872, 4 years before Colorado became a state. I actually got to do a roofing project about 3 years ago on a property that was included in our original homestead. It was an old cowboy bunkhouse, and I got to redo the roof on that. It was really a cool project. But yeah, my family has roped and ranched up until, I guess, this generation. I kind of bucked the trend, but my knees thank me for it every day because I don't have a limp and I'm not all bent over. Dad just got both his knees replaced after a career of rodeo. But yeah, I grew up on a ranch, and weekends and summers were spent traveling to rodeos all over the western United States with Dad, following his career. My grandpa passed away on horseback, my hero. And so that's kind of how I grew up, although I'd probably consider myself a city kid, especially if you look at some of my other family who's still in it. But when Dad kind of started to get out of rodeo and retire, he got a job at a school in town. And so my sister and I actually went to school in town at Colorado Springs Christian School and got an amazing education. I fell in love with the sport of basketball there and was able to get a little bit of a scholarship to play college basketball for a couple years. So I did that in Iowa, and the whole time I was in Iowa, I just felt like I wanted to come home. I call Colorado home, and I think it is truly God's country. There's nowhere better than this.
I agree.
Yeah. And so it took me a little bit longer than most to realize I was a little white guy, so I had to kind of quit playing basketball, transferred, tried to make it on one other team, didn't make it, and quickly realized that my identity was kind of wrapped up in that sport. And losing it taught me some really big life lessons. But I eventually got a couple degrees, graduated in 2008, and could not get a job, at least a desirable job. And so I was just working anything from running skating rinks to landscaping. Fell into banking. Let's see, I was in banking for 3.5, 4 years. Realized that wasn't what, I'm a terrible employee. If you give me a
Me
good,
too. I
yeah,
tell my wife I'm unemployable, and I've
yeah,
been that way for a while.
yeah, for sure. If you give me a good reason to buy in, I'm all in. But I have a hard time with culture that's do it because this is how we do it type of thing. And I think I get it from my mom, but I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. And my mom has always had a solid job, but was doing side hustles, and really just a great example for work ethic. And I think she really kind of inspired me to look outside of traditional jobs. And so I started a cleaning company. I was doing that for a year, and we had my daughter right around that same time, and quickly realized that nights and weekends wasn't what I wanted for my family. And through a connection in a networking group, I was introduced to the roofing industry. I had a 5-minute phone interview where they hired me. I said, I don't think you heard me. I don't know what I'm doing. He said, you'll figure it out. And that was 13 years ago. So I bounced around from several different roofing companies, a lot of residential, a couple years commercial, and was my last commercial job, it was just kind of a heavy, spiritually repressed atmosphere, and it was just weighing on me. And after a couple years, I think my wife got tired of me coming home tired and angry and upset. And she said, you should just start your own. So I saved up enough money to where I could go 6 months without any paycheck before we had to hit the panic button. And now that's been 5 years, and we've just been hammering away ever since.
I love it. I want to bring you back to something you said that was really important. So with a lot of our clients, as we help them prepare to sell their businesses or grow the business, one of the things that we talk a lot about is identity. And we actually have a lot of ex-sports folks that are competitive, and that's why they want to start a business. They like winning, they like making money. But one of the things we really help coach and guide them on is having an identity outside of what you do. And it could be sports, it could be your profession, it could be your kids, it could be the things that are kind of external, and having your identity be tied into something else. So tell us a little bit about that experience as you transition from being, hey, I'm an athlete and that's what I do, that's who I am, into something else, into I'm a business owner. And then even now, how do you maintain an appropriate identity to where if something happened and you couldn't be a business owner, you'd still feel good about that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm a slow learner. In high school, like I said, my identity was kind of wrapped up in basketball. And looking back, it sounds really silly, but at the time, that was where my focus was. It was where my emotions were based out of. And I like to say I lost basketball twice in my life. Once, my junior year of high school, I got talked into going out for the football team. And in the first game, after a late start, I broke my leg and then missed almost a full year of basketball. And I did not get the message God was trying to send me. And so you fast forward to college, I got invited to try to walk on at a college. So I transferred from where I was at, and the coach that brought me in was let go. And the new coach waited until the first day of school to let me know he wasn't going to take any walk on. So I'd already transferred, started school, and, I woke up one morning thinking I had an opportunity to play, and then it was gone. And I really struggled through that, again, because I had a misplaced identity. And God is still working on me through that. But it's, I've been surrounded my whole life with great examples of people who have the heart of a servant. Growing up, it was kind of embarrassing. My dad would pick up trash on our way from the truck to Walmart, And as a kid, it was embarrassing. But as you grow up, you realize he just truly had the heart of a servant. I just had a conversation with my project manager yesterday about her dad, who would bring people into his house, pick them up from jail, kind of get them back on their feet. And as a kid looking back, she's like, I don't know who he was bringing in my house, but he was just serving people. Yeah. And so I've been surrounded by these wonderful, amazing people and examples. And I think it just kind of intrinsically led into my career with seventh generation roofing. I mentioned I'd worked for some other roofing companies and felt very sales oriented, or it became competitive where the companies were just trying to beat the insurance. And you get to a point where you've got a nice network and you're building it and get done with a great year, and they say, okay, well, what are you going to do next year? And that competitive thing in me is like, okay, I got to keep one up and keep one upping. But my values and my upbringing really brought me back to, okay, how do we better serve people? And I don't always think it's reaching more people. It's just taking care of the ones you have.
For sure. Yeah, I love that. My wife and I can tell you're a believer. We're believers, and so identity is a big deal. And we think our identities in God, being children of God, being creators, and serving others to the maximum of our unique abilities, however that looks like. But we went to an event last night, and they had a movie called, I think it was called The Power of Small Things. And it was fascinating because a woman during COVID was just really dismayed by how unkind and mean people were becoming, especially in social media. And she was fairly well off, and she said, I'm gonna give $1 million to 50 different people in different amounts and have them just gift money away to people and figure out ways that they can serve people, not only with the capital, but in a tangible, physical way. And the movie was just beautiful because all of these outcomes were totally different, right? Some people, served and helped people that were having health issues. Some people served and helped with pets, like they had a passion for pets. Some people just kind of did it more within family. But it came back to, and I tell my clients when they're selling, I say, hey, your identity as an entrepreneur, mine is too, at least partially. I try to keep it pretty minimal. But as you transition out of entrepreneurship, everything that you do, all your networks are going to go away. And so you've got to build new networks. And the core thesis we've found that has worked really well for our clients is, where are you going to serve? Right now you're serving in the marketplace and you're serving your team and your clients, but take that same service attitude and go find something else you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to be in the same hours, because entrepreneurs work crazy hours a lot of times, but go find a new thing that you can serve and be useful. And that we found that's something that's going to allow people to really find fulfillment. People that believe in God and don't. I always tell people, I think you all believe in God because you're doing all these things that if you didn't believe in God, you wouldn't be doing, which includes serving and being helpful and kind. Right. But I love that, man. So let's talk about that. What is the identity of your business? Like, how would you explain the culture and core values of seventh generation roofing?
Hearts of servants. I have several project managers. So we're a small outfit. It's me. My dad just came on. He's retired, but mom needed him out of the house, so he helps us out a little bit. My cousin Tara Lee works with me. My cousin Kelly is on the phones. And then I have two other guys, Chris, that you know, and Richard, and I didn't seek out any of them. It was really amazing. Like I told you, I'm a slow learner. And when God brought them into my life, he didn't really give me a choice. I think because he knew I might not make the right one. But Richard's the only one that had prior roofing experience. But what all of them have in common, and this goes all the way down to the crew that I've been with for, I think, 13 years now, they truly just want to take care of people. And I'm blown away constantly with how God has brought these just amazing people into my life. I can take anybody up onto a roof, and in 5 minutes, you'll know what we're looking for. And of course, there's a growth curve there, but anybody can learn a trade. But what you can't teach is the hearts that my team has for people. And I'm blown away with how blessed and how selfless my team is. And I really can't take credit for it. It's just no other way to say it, but just blessed.
I love it, man. What are some stories that you'd want to share? What are some of the cooler or just more impactful things that have come out of running this business? Could be with clients or just outside some of the blessings that have come through business ownership.
Yeah. Well, one of them is I spent 20 years praying. I've known Chris for a really long time. We used to run before and after school camps for the YMCA. He was my boss. And whenever we'd get to work together, it was just an absolutely incredible time. And I always thought, man, if this guy was a believer, the impact he could have on people would be so incredible. And so I was praying for him. And you fast forward 15, 16 years, and kind of out of the blue, he calls and says, hey, a friend invited him to a conference, and it was kind of a trick, ended up getting saved, called me and said, I'm thinking about making a change. So I said, you're welcome to come see what I do. And he spent about a day, maybe a day and a half with me. And his legs, you should have seen him his first day shaking on top of this ladder. And you think back to where he started versus where he is now. But we leave it alone. He gets married, and he kind of called me back. He's like, yeah, I'm coming to work for you. I said, I don't think you know what we're getting into here. He's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And I was like, man, from then on, I was like, I got a good person. And so My cousin Tara Lee lives in Peyton, was working in Kiowa. Daughter goes to school. She lives in Callahan. Daughter goes to school. She was just running around. The hardest working individual you will ever meet. It's humbling to see how hard this girl works. And I just, at a 4th of July, said, hey, if you're ever looking for a change, I'd be happy to show you what I do. A couple weeks later, she calls and says, hey, I put in my notice. I'm coming. And again, but you don't know what you're getting into. She's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And so you talk about blessings from this is being able to connect with people that I've loved for so long and be able to have an impact with them and through them and work with their families. Richard was another one. Chris is our golden retriever. He met Richard's wife on a golf course and didn't search him out. Get to work with my dad, my best friend, you know? And so I would consider that a massive win. I know they say you shouldn't, maybe you don't work with family, but I would not have it any other way. I absolutely love being with my family. So that's the big win for me. Comes with pressure, right? Feels like you're shouldering a lot of responsibility. I believe if you trust God with your money, the rest will be taken care of. Maybe a story for sure. Time, but I've got a neat story behind, again, learning the hard way on how to trust God with money. But
let's dig in there, man, because I think, so one of the things that we do a lot on the show is try to debunk myths. So there's a lot of, I think, bad counsel on social media about wealth, about building a business, about getting rich quick, about all these things. And we own 9 different businesses. We've been in business a long time, and we're still learning every day. However, we've just learned that there's what I call the architecture of life, the things that God has created that are constant, that I believe are truth. And I think people are saying some things that aren't. But tell us a little bit about that lesson that you learned with money, because I think that's really important for folks that are thinking about getting into it, maybe for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, well, it was leading up to actually when I started my cleaning company. So I was a small business specialist for a bank and really did not enjoy it. Talked about buying. I wasn't bought into the mission. There was a way to service people, but I felt limited in how much I could help. And at the time, my wife was an in-school detention teacher for a middle school, and not what she went to school for. And so neither of us were really happy with our jobs. And this is a couple years after when we got married. We made $22,000 a year combined. We lived in an income-based housing apartment and we're broke folk. And looking back, man, it was such a good time. There was no money, but it was so much fun. But fast forward, I'm at the bank and driving to work in a 1992 F2, or it was a Dodge 2500 long cab. I had to fill the bed of the truck with weights because it would just slide all over the place. It was beat up and rattling. And I was headed to work and I audibly heard God say, I've got your work situation. I can't say that I've ever experienced that before, but there was just no doubt in my mind going to work, God had it under control. My attitude immediately changes. And about an hour into the day, I get a call. I was playing basketball about 6 months prior at a school in town, and it was dirty. Didn't seem very clean, and I just asked to meet the superintendent and said, look, I've got business background. What would it take for me to clean your building? He says, oh, we've got it all squared away. We're good to go. So 6 months later, within an hour of God telling me, I've got your work situation, the superintendent calls me and says, hey, our cleaning crew was caught stealing. When can you start? And it was overwhelming. About a week later, my wife gets a call from her dream job. She's a PE teacher, and in her first choice, they offer her a PE job. And a couple days later, we find out we're pregnant. And
Love it.
People who know me know I cry a lot. So this is not uncomfortable for me. It may be for you. Yeah, but it was amazing too to see how God weaves things together, because immediately my first thought after getting the job that I asked for, my wife getting a job and finding out we're pregnant, the words from a friend of mine who called when we were in the income-based housing. He calls one night, says, hey, my wife and I are pregnant. We feel like we need to send you some money. And my pride said, no, we don't want it. He goes, no, tell us how much we need to send you. I was like, well, I don't know. We're short every month. So he sends us, I think it was $187, something like that. So embarrassed, I get the check. It doesn't pay anything off. Just put it towards balance on something. Call him to say thank you. And he says, it's not my money, it's God's. He's just letting me use it. Once we found out we were pregnant, the first thought in my head is, it's not my money, it's God's. He's just letting us use it. And I went to my wife, and we would tithe what we thought we could afford, if there's pocket change. We were doing what we thought. And I said, from this point on, 10% right off the top goes to the Lord. The blessings we have gotten, we need to be faithful with our money. And it was at that moment that my mind switched. The money was never going to be a problem. My dad always used to say growing up, we got a lot of problems, but money isn't one. And as a kid, you think, all right, well, okay, good. We've got some money. He was saying it because money wasn't a problem because we didn't have any. You know?
That's great.
Yeah, and that faithfulness, there was about 6 months between when I left my first roofing company and when I got paid for my second. And again, we're not making a lot of money. I went 6 months without a paycheck. I can't explain to you how. Our mortgage was paid, bills were paid, we ate well, we were taken care of. And I got a return from an IRS tax bill randomly that got us through 1 month. And it just strengthened and recalled, it's not my money, it's God's. And when you're faithful with that, he's faithful to you. And, you know, a lot of people they don't like money being spoken about in church. And I think it's very real because churches just want your money. No, God wants your heart. And one of our biggest stumbling blocks is our heart over money because we work for it. We own it. We get to spend it. And it's really hard to let that go. And, you know, over the course of several broke years, I learned that lesson all the way up to today when I really start to stress about looking at the pipeline for the people I work with. And maybe it's not as full as we'd like, or man, we got to get stuff going so these people can provide for their families. I just go back to God's provision for me. And money's not a problem. You can always go get another job. There's money everywhere. You just got to be willing to do it. It's not always fun to get, but you can go get money. Money's not the problem. But if you're faithful with it, it's going to be taken care of. And it's a constant affirmation for me as a business owner.
That's so good. I want to share a story too on that because stewardship, Tara and I, God has continued to break us down as we think we've given things to him. And then he's like, no, you didn't quite give this to me and you didn't give that to me. And we built a house. So we moved to Colorado Springs about 5 years ago and couldn't find a home. So we just said, all right, we're going to build this on this lot. And I felt really not like a calling from God, but just like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing. But our contractor made a bunch of mistakes to the tune of $250,000. And and we didn't have the money, and I didn't know if he was going to honor and make up for it. And it was his fault. And our attorney, we had already talked to an attorney. He's like, this guy's going to walk away 100%. Like, they're going to walk away. They're going to start a new company and you're going to be out. And I remember I was running in Palmer Park over lunch and I was just like praying to God. I was like, hey, we can't do this deal. We can't make this house thing work. We don't have the money. We don't have and we had saved and made sure we had extra money. We were being super cautious about how we did this, and it was all gone. And then the permit for the house was not getting approved, so we were stuck in this spot where we were burning money, and the contractor had made some mistakes and was doing some things, and I just said, hey, if you want this to be done, you got to step in because we've done everything we can. And our contractor had said, yeah, the city of Colorado Springs is terrible. It's going to be hard to get the permit. We might not be able to get it because of the geologic risk. And literally, after I prayed that afternoon, the guy from the permitting office called me and said, hey, I'm going to approve your permit. And I was like, what do you mean? I haven't even called you. He's like, yeah, we just decided we're going to get this thing rolling and get it moving. And so that was like the first, all right, God, I've given it to you. This is your thing. The second one involves you guys, though, and Chris knows the story. So our contractor did a really bad job. We spent a lot of money on this house, and it's a wonderful house, an amazing place. And when we built it, I told Tara and our kids, I said, hey, this is God's place. It's going to be a place of joy. It's going to be a place where we host people. It's going to be a place where kids can feel safe and be outside. It's going to be a place where people come and they find God. But it's his house. So if we need to sell it, we'll sell it. If we need to, let people use it, we'll let people use it. But I'd shrunken that down. And so we had a huge roof issue. And you guys came out to look at it and work on it. And I was so frustrated because I'm like, we spent, I don't know, probably a couple $100,000 on a new metal roof 3 years ago that should be working great, right? We should have zero issues with it. It's brand new. We've had no hail. There should be no reason. And we've had a big leak and had to do a bunch of remediation. And what I realized is I was like, this is God's problem. This is not my problem. This is his thing. I couldn't control the fact that this roof is not holding up the way it should because this guy didn't install it correctly. So why am I crying over spilled milk that's not my spilled milk? If I truly believe this is God's asset and thing, yeah, I still need to do the work and make sure it doesn't deteriorate and steward it well, but I don't know if it's going to work out, and we got to rip out all the rest of the drywall and the insulation and do the whole thing. But I'm like, this is God's deal, so he's going to provide how we should work this and resource it. So I appreciate that story because I think for me, this has just been my experience. Every time I think I've given it to God, he shows me another spot where he's like, no, you actually didn't give me your identity here, or your identity with this money, or your identity with giving. And I want you to loosen that up and give it over. Anyways, thank you for sharing that story.
A question that we love to ask our potential clients is, do you know what your business is worth? And if you sold your business today, would it fulfill your personal and financial goals? If you're a successful business owner, but you don't know when or how to sell your business, and if you've ever wondered what each additional day in your business is actually costing you, we'd love to chat. If you're ready to spend more time with your family, your friends, or traveling, come sit down with our team, because when you work with exceptional business advisors, we'll help you build a blueprint to sell your business successfully and help you create, capture, and achieve your dream life. Don't wait for the right time. The time's now. Go ahead and scan the QR code or book a discovery appointment at excoadvisors.com.
But let's get focused on kind of the myths in young entrepreneurs. So as you think about young entrepreneurs coming into the trades, so we coach a lot of young folks that are like, I want to buy a business, I want to start a business. And we have a totally different coaching style because we really start with their purpose. Like, why do you want to do this? And it's always like, I want to make more money and I want to have more freedom and I want to do this. And I'm like, great. And it's kind of, I can't remember where this came out of, but it's a Japanese mental model. It's kind of the 7 whys. All right, why do you want this? Well, I want to make more money. Okay, why do you want to make more money? Well, I want to do this. Okay, why do you want to do that? Well, I want to provide more for my family. And we try to get them down to the core thesis of why they want to do it. And going through that process, I think, eliminates a lot of people because they really are just chasing money. And I'm like, man, starting a business, running a business is really, really hard. And I think if you don't do it with the right purpose, it'll destroy your life. When you do it with the right purpose, I think it can be a massive blessing. It's still going to be hard no matter which way you go. But as you think about young men and women coming into specifically the trades, how would you coach them on building something great in the blue collar service or trade space?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm trying to figure out where to start. And I think I'm a high school basketball coach as well. And I oftentimes tell kids, unless you know what career field you're going to go to, and it requires a college degree, go get your hands dirty. It took me a long time to catch up to my friends who right out of school just went to work versus me who went to school and incurred debt. But you got to start somewhere. I think with social media, nobody's posting the truly hard times. You see the entrepreneur sitting at his desk in a dark office with just a light on, it says grinding. And you think, well, you set up your ring light and your camera and you took time off to tell people how hard you're working, and so I guess for young people, just go to work because you'll discover your passion through struggle. I don't tell everybody, my wife makes fun of me for it, but anybody talks about work is kind of tough. Like, oh, you should start your own thing. I love to hear people just rolling the dice on themselves and taking a chance. And I encourage people to do it. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. You go get a job that's there now. There's nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I love hearing people try for themselves, specifically in the trades. I was with a roofing company a while ago, and the owner really felt like the industry was going to be to where you buy a roof on Amazon and you order it, it shows up, you order your labor, they show up. And through that, I just kept thinking we're missing the human element. I understand that, I guess you can call it convenience. I don't think it's that simple, but there's a human element and touch points that you get with people in their lives that is what makes the difference,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for people getting into it, just try. I fell into roofing, right? But I spent my first month showing up to jobs and just asking the foreman if I can just haul trash. And while they're hauling trash, while I'm hauling trash, I'm watching to see how they do stuff. I'm studying on the side. I'm trying to get this knowledge base of why it is we do what we do. And I'm learning while I'm in there working on it. But yeah, I just do it. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Do the work.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Do the work.
Yeah, analysis by analysis is real. Just do it.
Do the action. Shorten. We have a concept that one of our good friends shared with us called the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Do that as quickly as possible. Like observe, figure out what the situation is, orient, hey, what's true, what's false, decide I'm going to do this and then act. But shorten that loop as much as you can, and it allows you to have a lot more success. And I'll share a story. So I had a really good advocate. My undergrad was animal sciences and business. I grew up ranching and thought I was going to be a vet. I was like, this is where I'm going. I love being out with animals. I love working with ranchers and with farmers. And anyways, I was terrible at it. And the CEO was like, yeah, you suck at science. You should do business. That's what you're better at. But the gal who recruited me to the vet clinic, which was the oldest vet clinic in the country, Hagyard, after I got out of that, even going into business school, she was a reference, and she gave me the most incredible references. Like, I mean, just people would call me and say, hey, we're hiring you because this person, Jamie, called and said you were phenomenal. And I was like, that's really interesting. So I called her one time and I said, Jamie, why? You know, why are you such a big advocate? And she's like, because you dumped the muck truck. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. So I was on the business side in the vet clinic and wearing kind of the same thing, like, hey, you know, white shirt and slacks and that sort of thing. And a couple times when it was cold, the guy who, you know, dumped the muck, all of the poop from all the horses, they would, you know, scoop it up in a bobcat, throw it in the back of this truck, and then haul it to this dumping spot. He didn't show up, and she's like, golly, we got to get this out of here because we have more feces we got to get rid of. And I was like, I could do that. That's easy. Like, I've done that 100 times. And I jumped in there and with my normal clothes and just dumped it and just went about my day. And it wasn't a big deal to me at all. I was like, yeah, that's easy. I can handle that for you. And she was like, that was more impactful than all of the good business things you did for us while you're there, because you saw something that was just kind of nasty. I mean, it was disgusting, right? It stinks. It's gross. It's not fun. It was cold. And she's like, you hopped into that. And I bring that story back with the young folks that I coach in the same way that your dad did. It's like, hey, if you see something, do it. With our kids too, we've got 3 kids. I'm like, hey, you saw that those dishes needed to be put in the dishwasher. Do it. That's going to serve your mom and me. Like, do it. If you see something that needs to be done, pick it up, make it happen. And I think just as an employer, when I see an employee do anything different, most employees just want to show up and just do the bare minimum. But when my team member calls me or does something and says, hey, I did this thing, that is such an indication of their heart and the progress and growth they're going to have within my team that has nothing to do with the production. They may just say, hey, you know, our customer needed this thing, and so I ran by and dropped this thing off. And I'm like, thank you for doing that, and that's really important. So anyways, I love that, man. That's such good advice. Let's pivot to what's some bad advice you're hearing or seeing. I'm not on social media a lot, but every once in a while someone shares a post with me, and most of it is about life being easy and quick, and you can get rich quick, and you can do all these things. Business is easy. You can make it passive. But what's some advice, bad advice that you've heard that you try to bring up to young entrepreneurs or young people that are trying to make their way in life?
I think a lot of people surround themselves with the visually successful individuals, right? The people that are maybe 10 steps ahead of you. While it is important to look up to them, they're not at the same place as you. And so you feel like, oh, I should be there, when you don't realize everything they went to get there. So one, you got to be patient and just grind it out. Thinking specifically to my industry, you know, there's a lot of people come in as salesmen, door knockers, and they hit a certain volume. And at a certain point, there's just not enough hours in the day, not enough doors to knock before a lot of people in my industry think, well, I'm just going to start my own. And they don't understand everything that goes into it. They want to get to the finish line before they climb the mountain, right? They don't learn everything that it takes to get to that point. And so I think some of the worst advice, and I left one company because of that. You had a great year. What's next? When I was in banking, we were in a very low traffic spot, but I ranked top 3 in the state in a metric that we had it was really cool to achieve, and sat down and it was like, hey, good job, but what are you going to do next month? And while it is important to motivate, and I'm always a what's next guy. I want to check the box and move on to the next thing. So it's a struggle for me. But at a certain point, you realize, man, I am doing well, but it's not fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And so while you're taking those steps and learning, you gotta find a way to enjoy it and find fulfillment. It's very easy to become transactional. Mm-hmm. You know, you log the deposits and the sales, and it's looking really nice. One thing that I do is I write a handwritten thank you note for every roofing project that we do. And it's kind of a checkpoint for me, because if I can't speak to something in that thank you note other than thanks for the business, I'm glad you trusted us. I can't remember a pet's name, a kid's name, something personal. It was just a transaction. And so you got to find a way to connect with people. And it's hard, I fail at it every day, right? You get busy, you want to keep growing, and you just kind of, it's easy to lose sight of why you're doing it. And even now I'm, imagining a couple of transactions that I had, not relationships built. So yeah, the advice to just follow the grind. They glorify the hard work and the goals, and you kind of miss all the lessons and the fun and the stuff on the way. If that makes sense. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, that's good, man. I think that's really good. Ed Milet, who I think has a really great podcast, calls it blissful dissatisfaction. He's like, be blissful in the day, man. Really enjoy the journey, but also be a little dissatisfied with knowing that you could do better, looking for the areas you can improve, and not in like a mean, punitive way, self-loathing way, but just, man, I could have treated that person better. Hey, we really do need a process here, that we've kind of failed our clients in this area, and we should really build a process that our team knows about. But being blissful in that situation, and we've had a couple big deals that we were working on blow up in the past couple months, and I'm in business with my family, which I absolutely love. So I was talking with my brothers, and I said, hey, do you guys feel like we controlled what we could? And they said, yeah, absolutely. And they were kind of pissed off. And I said, yeah, me too. I think we did pretty well on these things. And I said, so this is where we decide, do we trust God or not? Because we did our part, right? And it didn't happen. And so if I don't trust God, then I'm pissed and I try to make it happen, and I try to, jam it together and kick another door down. But if I do trust God, I know he's doing something. And there's something there that maybe it's a time thing. Maybe it's a, hey, pay attention to this, or love this person well. And so I think for us, it's easy to get the joy sucked out of your day when you've got a bad call with the client, or something doesn't go wrong, or your employees quit on you, or you get sued. All those things are going to happen to you if you own a business for long enough.
Yeah, and I would
but
even
we've
add to
really
that,
just
I don't mean to interrupt, but I would even add to that, just the mundane of just trudging through can become as much of a hindrance as a negative interaction.
For sure. Yeah, death by 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, I think that's more what it is. It's usually, I'm just tired of doing this monotonous thing that I know I got to do day after day after day, and it sucked the joy out of it. That's really good, man. So we're getting towards the end of the podcast, and I like to close with a few things. Number one is, where can people find you, Tanner? What website, email, if somebody wants to utilize you as a client, or just interact with you because they're like, man, I love what you're saying, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, I'm a terrible marketer. I have a website because somebody much smarter than me a few years ago told me I needed one. It's just seventhgenroofing.com. Find us on Facebook. I need to post more. And then my phone, honestly, I'm a big phone guy. I don't like to text, but yeah, I should probably be doing more to do that. But I've been doing this for 13 years. I've gotten one project directly from a marketing campaign, but for 13, 14 years, it's all been referrals. And so it's really just kind of a word of mouth thing. I need to work on it.
I love it, man. No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so 2 closing questions. First question is, what's a resource or something that's really been useful to you the past 6 months? Could be a book, could be a passage, could be a podcast, could be a mental model that you learn from somebody else. And then leave our audience with some positivity, with some advice or counsel that's going to say, hey, 2026 in Colorado and the United States of America, there's a lot of good things. Here's something I would leave you with. But what's a resource first that's really worked well for you?
Yeah, one thing, I've really been digging back into this because we talked about mundane. My pride gets in the way. And a lot of times when I'm dealing with insurance, my pride steps up and I want to win rather than serve. And so I've really been focusing on this verse, Galatians 5:13, for you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for flesh, but through love serve one another. And it's been coming back, into play here a lot lately. And the second thing, you talked about surrounding yourself with good people. I had an incredible group of friends from college, and we got together about a month and a half ago just to play golf. Hadn't seen them 14, 15, 16 years, and it was like we did not skip a day. And they are all believers. And it wasn't, hey, how are you? It was, how is your relationship? And these questions have just been nothing but encouraging. And one's a dairy farmer, one's works for utilities in California, one's a dentist. Surface level, we don't have much in common, but love for the Lord, and encouragement and love for each other. And that is maybe the biggest encouragement that's hit me lately, is just when you surround yourself with good people and a good network, encouragement is never far away.
I love it, man. That's so good. Tanner, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. This has been a pleasure. I'm excited to put this out and put this positivity and this messaging out into the world. But really appreciate you, brother. And thanks for coming on, and we'll see you on down the road.
Thanks so much for having me. I really had a good time.
For sure. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com, for free tools, to order a copy of Selling Main Street, or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.